provide on Tristan?
He's still day-to-day, made improvements over the break. I think the break probably did him some good. I know he did some rehab on his own. He's skating today. And you know, we're gonna monitor progress day by day from here, but we certainly don't expect him to be out very long.
And can I ask you to assess your top two goaltenders individually, just Tristan with the injuries as of late? Does that give you any reason to concern as far as potentially extending him? And Casey, the results haven't been there, at least in terms of wins and losses. Has he lived up to, I guess, your hopes when you re-signed him this past summer?
Great question. I think our team has been very inconsistent this year. I think we've had moments where we've been very good. I think we've had moments where we haven't been very good. And I think when you tie the goalies into it, I think it's probably fair to say, I think Jars has been, for the most part, pretty good. A little bit of inconsistencies, and I think Casey's been good at times. I think the Washington game was a great example where he was very good, and other times he hasn't been as good as we need him to be. But again, I think that's reflective of a lot of players on our team, and we're looking for more consistency from here on through the end of the year from individuals, but also from the group.
Ron, I have two. One is the mandate from ownership still to win now and also while building for the future. And secondly, regarding the team this year, what is your plan going into the deadline?
Well, we would like to get better. Sometimes getting better is making a move that maybe is a better fit than what we have. When I look at our team on paper, I like our team. When I look at some of the games and the results, I don't like it as much. So sometimes you get better when you make a move with a certain player that fits better, whether it's internal or external. So we'll continue to look here to upgrade. We got to be creative with our cap situation, but I think 22 teams are either within $2 million of the cap or on LTIR. So there's a lot of teams that are in a tight situation here, and certainly we're one of them. But so we're going to have to be creative, but we'd certainly like to find something that upgrades our group, and like I said, maybe it's a better fit.
Davey? No.
Ron, with your playoff status currently tenuous, is there any scenario that could cause the Penguins to be sellers at the deadline, to move on guys like Zucker and Dumoulin who are in the last years of their deal?
I certainly hope not. If we play the way we're capable of playing, I see us certainly making the playoffs. With injuries and with our inconsistencies this year, I guess it's a fair question. But as I said, I think when you look at our top players, for the most part, they performed well. I think some of our role players need to be better at times, and we certainly expect them.
Ron, we've heard that the cost to move out of salary since the summer has been a #1 draft pick or equivalent. Can you take that off the table, that you would not be willing to do that, or is that on the table to move out salary?
A first round pick?
Yeah, first round pick or equivalent.
Yeah, I would say that's not on the table. I haven't been asked for that, certainly. Conversations, I think, are starting to pick up with a lot of guys, but there's not like a lot of guys people are kind of looking to see what's out there, kind of grabbing the group. Okay, we'd be interested in this or this on both sides, whether you're a buyer or a seller. But not a lot of teams. Obviously, we saw the big one the other day with the Islanders, but there's not a lot of teams right now that are looking to jump and kind of getting down to the fine strokes here. But certainly the talk is picking up. But in terms of first round picks for getting salary out, I don't see that as being an option for us.
Will in the middle.
Ron, how would you evaluate the job Sully and his staff have done over the first 49 games? And is there any concern that he's been here a long time, we've had players here a long time, that his message maybe doesn't resonate the way that it did earlier in his tenure?
I think when you look at our organization, we've been consistent. And it starts with me. I put the players on the ice, Sully coaches the players play. So I think when I look at the whole group here, we all have to be more consistent. We've got to be better on a nightly basis. It's not like you're going to be here necessarily every night. It's unrealistic. 82 games. It's a grind, but we need to be here. You know, we see too much of this and then too much of this. play our great games and we play our bad games, and we gotta bring those games up where, whether it's back-to-backs 3 and 4. I think we got 33 and 66 now. It's a tough schedule, we all know, but every team's in the same boat. So in terms of Sully, I think Sully's a terrific coach. I would put him up against any coach in the league. And if there's any players that are not responding to him, I would more look to move those players. Sully's a great coach.
Wes?
Ron, when you say that you might look to upgrade, is the bottom 6 forwards a specific group that you'd be looking at? Do you think you've gotten enough in that area?
I think it's fair to say the chemistry there hasn't been kind of like we had hoped it would be. There's times I think where we've had some chemistry down there, but I think over the course of the year, the chemistry hasn't been that great. And chemistry is a tough thing to define when you're talking about a line or a hockey team or a defense or a forward group. But you can kind of feel it and see it when it's there, and I think that's somewhere where we can look to hopefully improve.
Anyone on your left?
Ron, when you talked about hopefully improving and you talk about the bottom 6, would that be a case of finding a way to get more grit, more energy onto those lines? And has that been a disappointment for you to date?
Well, I think when Archie, to your point, when Archie was out of the lineup, that hurt us.
Right.
Archie's a gritty guy, he's a high energy guy. Sometimes like when, he's played with different combinations this year, but just say Pales, Teddy, and Archie, they go out there and they create a lot of energy for us. They might not score, but they have ozone time, they create energy for us, and all of a sudden Sid's line follows up and the building's rocking, and all of a sudden we score a goal. People don't look back and go, well, the 4th line went out there and, created some energy. So I think that's fair to say, and we're hoping Archie's back soon here, but I think grit and energy is, that's fair to say, and whether it's from within or outside, we would look in that direction.
Jeff on the left?
Ron, to your earlier point, do you feel like you have to make a deal, or could this group as currently constructed find a spark?
It's really dangerous to feel like you have to make a deal, because quite frankly, look at the history and all of a sudden you make a bad deal. Like, we're not gonna make a deal and make a bad deal. We're gonna make a deal because we feel like it makes our team better in terms of just like the chemistry part that I'm talking about. We can bring a piece in and we think it'll fit better with our group here and maybe connect the line. That's what we'll look to do, but we're not gonna, I've never felt pressure to make a deal for the sake of making a deal. I'd like to make a deal to make our team better.
Staggy in the back?
On an interview that Dave Molinari just recently did with Brian Burke, he mentioned the cap being something that has really been restricted for so many teams, and it kind of raised the philosophical question of whether or not that's necessarily the best strategy to have anymore, to spend to the cap and find yourself in the position that you're in and a lot of other teams are in. Do you see any possibility that philosophy could change, that you leave more cap space and kind of deal with it during the course of the year?
Well, I had an unwritten rule a few years ago to keep $2 million in cap space just to allow call-ups and possible deadline. With the flat cap, quite frankly, it's become much more difficult. You want to go into the season with a team that you think is a little lesser, and go those first 2 or 3 months with maybe one lesser player or a player that's not as good as that one player, and all of a sudden, it's a tough question to answer. But I think last summer we wanted to sign Gino, we wanted to sign Tanger, and we knew it was going to cost us, so we obviously stretched them out as we've talked about. But if you're asking me if I'd rather have one less of our top players and have a couple $1 million, I would say the answer is no.
2 more, Wes?
Ron, you just mentioned bringing back Gino. He's closing in on 1,200 points in the NHL, and he's back over a point per game this season. Just how satisfied are you with the return on investment and bringing him back this year?
Yeah, he's been really good. I think the injury and getting so much time under his belt, I think he's skating a lot better this year. I mean, he's a very hungry player, and he's been great. I mean, there's times where it's like, holy cow, how do you stop this guy? So yeah, Gino's been good. Certainly no complaints. I think he brings a lot to our room. I don't know if you guys see it. I don't really see it. He doesn't really joke that much in front of me, in front of Berkey, but in front of the guys, I know he's a jokester and he brings a lot to the room, but what he brings on the ice is hard to replace.
Last one.
Ron, if I could circle back, you've been taking a stab at this for a few years now. How do you continue to sort of build for the future, which was part of what ownership said it wanted previous ownership, while addressing the needs that this team has?
Well, I mean, my job is to look at this team today, tomorrow, a year from now, 2, 3 years from now. But right now, our focus is on having the best team possible this year, you know, without doing silly things for the future. But if we can do something to make us better this year, we're gonna look to do it. I mean, you've always got as a manager, like Sully's gotta win, you gotta win Tuesday. That's a coach's job. The manager's job is, you know, more looking at, yes, Tuesday, the deadline, and then, but also years beyond. So, but right now with the team we have, we wanna make the playoffs and be as good as we can be going into mid-April. So that is the focus, and the focus will continue to be there.